Hello, everybody. Today I'm talking very specifically about Gears of War. So, if you're not super in on Gears of War, this might not matter at all to you, but I care a lot. I care a whole lot, so much so that I used to wear a pair of cog tags almost every single day from when I was a sophomore in high school until about a month ago until it broke. Every day I happen to see almost the exact same post, whether it's on Instagram or Reddit or the official Gears of War forums. Bring back Gears of War 2 in a remaster. I want more Gears of War 2. Let's do a Fenix Collection. No. I think every day or every time I see this opinion come up, it makes me want something like that less and less. I think so far the Coalition have already kind of proved that with Gears of War 4 and 5, unless it's something they're doing to the letter, like with Ultimate Edition, they don't seem to have either the team or the leadership or the vision or whatever to make a Gears of War game that is both faithful to what came before and still able to stand on its own two legs. I also find it funny that the main writer for most of the Gears of War games now, who wrote Judgment, 4, 5, and Gears Tactics, is all the same guy. Back when Gears of War is at its peak, I think Gears of War 3, which was mainly written by Karen Travis, who also wrote the books, did an amazing job. And then we got Judgment, which wasn't great, and it totally wasn't, faithful to the games. Then we got 4, and then we get 5, which I think 4 is not bad, but 5 definitely does piss in the face of a lot of the stuff that came before. We have all this on top of the fact that most of the people working at the Coalition are either contracted freelancers or they've just left. Big leads like Ryan Cleven and Rod Ferguson have just left, and half of the rest of the people working on Gears of War are contracted freelancers. They're not even a part of the Coalition. They're just brought on for however many months until they finish what they're working on and then they leave. I think right now Gears of War and the Coalition, to maybe a greater extent, is kind of a mess, and I think I'd rather see Gears 6 instead of a remaster for two very big reasons. I think reason one, if they make Gears of War 6 and it's totally crap, it's bad, or it's just as bad as Gears 5, and people are totally fed up with it, they can put Gears on ice and people will be okay with that. And I would be okay with that, because I would rather see Gears go on the ice than continue to just have sort of mediocre, subpar releases for the next 10, 15 years. I think after Gears of War 3 and Judgment, after the kind of mess that Judgment was, I was not expecting another Gears of War game. Gears of War 4 was kind of a surprise for me at the time. I didn't see it coming. Obviously, I wasn't paying attention to the Coalition being founded or anything, but it made Gears 4 a big surprise because I expected them to just be done with Gears of War after the kind of flaming mess that Judgment was.
That's from Dom. And everyone else you killed, you bitch.
And I think moving forward, even better than a remaster, Gears 6 has to be better than what came before. I don't think Gears of War is going to come back just because they have a remaster. I've kind of flip-flopped on this idea, because before I used to think that if they remastered Gears 2, 3, and Judgment to the same extent that Gears 1 was done in Ultimate Edition, kind of like a Fenix Collection or something, that would instill some sort of ideas and get the vibe of the universe in the Coalition's heads when they go through and they totally remake all the games. I feel like if the Coalition does make anything in the next 3 to 5 years, something comes out, I would rather it be a standalone IP or something totally not Gears related at all. I think it would almost be better for them to breathe and take a few years off of Gears of War rather than being forced to make Gears of War forever and ever. Obviously that's not working, because we got people like Rod Ferguson, who's been with Gears since basically the beginning, if not the beginning. I believe he's been there since, Gears 1 launched. And those people are just going to get burnt out. They probably have lots and lots of ideas, maybe a lot of good ideas that just don't really work for Gears and the universe that Gears has created, but that doesn't mean they can't do something somewhere else with like a new IP, like we saw the Unreal Engine 5 tech demo that the Coalition put out a while ago. I think that, if they made like that into a game universe type thing, I think that looks fantastic. I think we're getting so many cool things coming out of Unreal Engine 5 like this that I would love to see more creative, something new, something that isn't necessarily Gears coming out of both the Coalition and whatever else. Xbox is buying up all these many different studios like Obsidian, Activision, and Bethesda and everything. I would rather see them take this new technology and all these ideas and do something totally new and totally different that kind of blows us away and allows them to breathe and kind of build up their reputation as a studio first, and then come back to a project that's big and ambitious like a Gears of War game. I think Gears of War being like a flagship title for Xbox, with the kind of reputation and the way that it's been going the last few years, the last almost decade now, I would rather see them do something totally different. I think it would be better for the Coalition as a whole, and even like a lot of people who play Gears of War, if we had a game that played kind of similarly to Gears of War but still went on to do its own thing. It would give the Coalition the ability to like kind of flex their creative muscles and sort of do something that we haven't seen before. And it also means when they make a game like that, they don't have to worry about pleasing fans of what came before. That's kind of the issue you have with Gears Judgment and Gears 5, is they try to change up like the gameplay structures, but people don't want that. People just want what's come before. I really fucking hope that motherfucker on that motorcycle didn't ruin my fucking recording. I think if the Coalition was able to make something that isn't tied down by Gears, it would allow them to play around with gameplay and play around with new mechanics that they might not otherwise be able to do. Something like in Judgment, where we had like the higher fall damage, or the ability to drop down at all, really, and like switching weapons and grenades and everything like that. Or in Gears 5, they try to put more emphasis on melee and CQC, which doesn't necessarily translate well to Gears, or like the hero powers and stuff. I would be really interested in seeing that kind of pushed even further in a new game, rather than being tacked on to Gears in a sort of half-assed way. And I think the other big things that people try to go for when it comes to a Gears sequel is they say, we should bring back Epic, we should bring back Cliffy B. Those are both horrible answers to the problem we're having right now. At least I think so. For one, Epic Games is not the same today as they were in 2013, if even 2011. Cliffy B and Rod Ferguson, who are probably the two biggest names that worked on Gears in the past, are no longer with Epic. Epic Games is just not the studio that it used to be. I mean, obviously, they've been doing Fortnite for however many years now, and they're going in a totally different direction than you would expect a Gears of War game to be in. And I think if you look at somebody, I think most people who play Gears of War are not the kind of people that are playing Fortnite regularly. I mean, I don't know if that's too ambitious for me to say, but with Epic's recent reputation, I think a Gears of War game brought to you by the creators of Fortnite is not really the Gears of War game that a lot of people are looking forward to. And to the people who want to bring Cliffy B back, I should remind you that Cliffy was very much in favor of systems in Gears of War that most people don't like. Cliffy kind of hated the Gnasher. He hated that like up-close shotgun gameplay, and maybe you do too. But I'm saying for most people who play Gears of War with the Gnasher meta that's built in, this kind of goes against what I said in the previous video about metas, but for most people who play Gears of War, the Gnasher is king. It's been king. That's kind of the draw for a lot of people who play Gears of War multiplayer, is like the Gnasher battles. That's why a lot of people don't really like Gears 4, which had two different tunings for the Gnasher that were totally different, and Gears 5, which is kind of like 50-50 on the Gnasher. Sometimes it works wonderful, sometimes not as much. I think people forget that Cliffy B was in favor of systems like what we saw in Judgment and even what we saw in Gears 5. If we had like Cliffy B come back and take over Gears, it might feel more like Gears thematically, but gameplay wise it would probably feel more akin to Gears 5 on launch, with emphasis on like arcade where you like buy guns and it's mostly just rifles, and rifles are overpowered and all of this stuff, which doesn't necessarily work for the fan base that Gears of War is now. And if you still want Cliffy B back after that, I should remind you that this whole thing happened when Cliffy B was running Gears under Epic. The main thing I'm trying to get to here is going backwards is not always the right way to go forwards. That's kind of like exactly how I described Gears of War 4's development process, was that they would take a step forward and then 2 steps backward. I think it's just better overall for Gears to try and do something new, or for the Coalition to try something new without Gears, than it would be to try and make remasters or try to bring back old people who worked on the games before to try and save the new games, because I don't think that's necessarily the answer that we're looking for. You can look back, I'll have to see if I can find it and leave it in the description, but there was a stream that they did for Gears 5 where they got the narrative lead over basically the whole Gears of War universe at the time, and somebody asked her, like, why do Scions have like the same powers as the Cantus? Why are blood leeches a thing when they were supposed to be killed off with the rest of the Locust? And her answer was, obviously not verbatim, but to the effect of, because why not? We needed an enemy to fill that role, so we just made them fill that role. And it's not necessarily a bad answer. It is a video game. If the in-depth explanation from the head of the narrative team is why not, I think there might be an issue there. To me, I just believe that Gears deserves better, or not at all. And right now, in the immediate future, it just looks like better isn't anywhere in sight. Thank you very much to everybody who watched this. Gears of War is like my favorite video game series ever, and I don't think many people who I see make YouTube videos on it are very critical about it, but I think a healthy amount of criticism is good, and especially well needed when we have Gears in the state that it is. But I just wanted to say thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, whatever. I am currently in a position where if you comment, there's not a high possibility, there is a certain chance that I will reply to your comment, because the only person who comments so far is one of my buddies from high school. So anyone else besides him comments, I am definitely going to see it and reply to it. But yeah, that's the whole video. Thank you for watching. Just remember, have fun, stay cool, be awesome. Take care.